There were so many things that I was using for myself to take myself away from the present moment. After alcohol and drugs, it turned to like women, sex. It was anything that could take me away, but give me external validation. So,
Preet, welcome to the Fit for Success podcast, mate. Thank you for coming on.
thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. For anyone that doesn't know who you are, because obviously I know you very well, tell the audience who you are. What is it that you're known for? What do you do?
My name's Preet. I'm from England, and I am known as a performance coach, more specifically mindset performance coach now. And I am known as someone that spreads amazing energy around the world. So I spend my life traveling the world. And I've done that because I got to a stage in life where you get to make a choice whether you wait to live the life that you want to live or you start living it today. And that's something that I do with all of my clients. Like, we make a choice about where you're going in life, what you want to do. And instead of living it in the future or dreaming about living it, you start living it today and you create that. So that's what I'm known for. And it's been a hell of a journey to get where we are right now. So that's really cool.
Yeah, cool. It's funny because I was just speaking to Joe on the previous podcast, and he said something very similar. I got to this point where a decision had to be made. My life wasn't going in the direction it needed to, and I needed to change. I can resonate with that as well. I would love to hear about the journey that took you to that point. So if you could rewind to, where this journey of getting into coaching and mindset started, what the real triggers were. I think for you, it goes probably quite a long way back, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It's really interesting because I initially got into coaching not to even help myself, just to help other people, to make sure that they never went through the pain that I went through. So when I was 6 months old, I got a rare blood disease, like a skin disease, which meant that I had thousands of food allergies. So I was, you could peel me off the pillows in the morning. So I'd be full of blood, full of pus. So growing up, there were many kids in the house. There were 5 of us in total. There were 7 in the end, but growing up, there was 5. And everyone was allowed to eat whatever they like. And then for me, it was really restrictive. So like no dairy, no meat, no fish, no nothing. So that was really odd. So we took that, and that made childhood quite difficult to begin with. And then when I was 5 years old, my mum had a car accident. So she was fully paralyzed. She couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. She could breathe. The only thing that she could do herself was grind her teeth. So that's all she could do. And then for 5 years, she was fully paralyzed. And then when I was 10, she passed away. And then when she passed away, my father and the rest of the family decided that the best thing to do for us 3 kids, me, my brother and my sister, was to get remarried, to get someone to look after us, because obviously we were really young. Unfortunately, that marriage was a sham and it was a fake. The woman moved into the country. She stayed for 3 years and then disappeared. So the 2 main women in my life both went in my childhood. So that was like a really big thing. And then, so I turned to sport. So I started playing hockey and I was like, oh my God, this is great. I don't have to focus on emotions. I don't have to focus on growing up. I can just focus on sport. Every single class report that I got at school always said that I was the class clown. I talk too much, don't have the focus. Why does he not pay attention? And for me, there was multiple reasons that happened, but the main reason was because I was running away from myself. I didn't know. And I was running away from home life. I was running away from myself. I was running away from the pain. And then that made me turn towards sport. So I put all my energy into sport. However, then through my teenage years, the NHS, unfortunately, the NHS is amazing, by the way, but the NHS missed 5 fractures in my ankles, which led to my right knee dislocating. So I was putting all my energy into this one thing because that was the only thing that I knew. And then that was taken away from me. So doctors turned around and said, after I did my knee, that you won't ever run again without a brace. So I had all this pain that I'd received as a child. And then the injuries happened. And then a doctor's telling you that you're never going to walk again. So my mindset was, okay, cool. The best thing to do now is to make sure that it doesn't happen to other people. That didn't come before, and I know you can resonate with this one, is after the initial surgery, I actually gained around 5 stone in a very short period of time because I thought that sport had gone, the one thing that I turned towards. And then my gran convinced me, as grans do, that food is the next best thing. So she just piled food down me. And obviously I just ate it as well. So I didn't even realize that I'd put on so much weight until one of my best friends, Luke, Luke, he sent me a picture of, it was after a summer in Ibiza that I was just massive. And then I went away. My brother was into boxing and initially got into another different type of sport, just getting fit. but never had the love and the drive to continue moving forwards until I went to university and I became a strength and conditioning coach. So I turned towards that because I was like, I'm really stuck here. I don't really know what I'm doing. I didn't really think about this is what I want to do. I never spent that time to think, oh yeah, this is the route that I want to take in life. I actually felt really, really lost and went down that route. And within a few years, realized that actually what we teach the normal public or a normal human being, the knowledge is very different to what we give our professional athletes. So I started to pick up on knowledge that wasn't even available to mainstream people. Then started rehabbing like top coaches, working with like top athletes, and it was amazing. It was during the 2012 Olympics. So we had the Jamaican sprint team at our university. So obviously we got to see like some top sprinters just kind of doing their thing. And then that was the big turning point for me initially, because I was initially doing it just to help other people. And I realized that actually I could do this for myself. And then that's where the journey started to begin, because I was like, I could fix myself here, and went away one summer, did loads of rehab, did loads of prehab work, things that aren't really available to normal people. Even now, if you did your knee in or you did your ankle in and you went to hospital and you had your rehab done, the rehab that they're going to give you is to get you back into everyday life. Whereas the rehab that we needed, or the rehab that I needed, was to get me back to top level sport, which was very, very different. So that was the beginning of the journey. This was all before I was introduced to alcohol and drugs. So, and this, as you know, as a student in the UK, we've got a really big drinking culture and we've got a really big partying culture. And I had all of these emotions stuck inside of me. So I turned towards partying, and partying seemed to be the place where I could completely be myself. So growing up, I was in this culture that was quite strict, this strict Indian culture where our family wanted us to hold on to the culture because they'd moved over as immigrants. Then on top of that, I got all of these injuries. So working in a nightclub was like completely free. I was like, oh my God, I can just be myself. I can do all the things that I was told not to do as a child, and I could just be free. So it was the first kind of time and place where I was allowed to just be me. And interestingly, I can look back on it now and I wouldn't change any of it. However, if you met me then, you'd be like, this guy is an absolute idiot, like in every way. He's just wild and really like negative influence on all the people around me. So like, if you wanted to go out, I'd be there to go out. And initially it was alcohol. Then it went from alcohol, and then like drugs got introduced in like early 20s. And the whole thing was just about running away from myself as much as I possibly could. Initially it was the injuries, so I chose sport. Then after the sport got taken away, I turned to drinking and drugs, and that's what was taking me away. So if we look back on like the whole sort of time and period, there were so many things that I was using for myself to take myself away from the present moment. After alcohol and drugs, it turned to like women, sex. It was anything that could take me away, but give me external validation. Yep. So partying gives you external validation because people want to party with you. Yeah. And then drugs gives you that external validation because you find the people that want to do drugs with you. Yeah. And none of them are good for you, but they're things that can take you away. So you're almost helping other people run away from their own trauma. So you get like this collective group of people that are like all egging each other on to do these terrible things to numb everything that's going on inside of them. And it was around 25, 26. And it's one really big thing that I truly believe in. For every high, there's a deeper low. And I was just going on this cycle of constantly going up and then coming back down. And then as you come back down, you need a bigger thing to go back up. And it might start with just eating really bad food. Like we see it a lot with like our clients that we see. Nutrition isn't necessarily a very hard thing to adhere to, but we're not talking about nutrition. We're talking about the pain that's underneath the nutrition. That's what leads people to constantly revisiting bad foods or believing that they don't deserve to be healthy or they can't be healthy. So we're going down this route, and then eventually there was a really, really low period. So around 25, 26, the lows got so deep that I couldn't see color. I couldn't feel color. I couldn't feel emotion. I just felt numb. I felt really dark, angry pretty much all the time. And then the only way I wouldn't, it would be like happiness from like partying or drugs. And it was at 26, I decided to just cut everything. So I went like super extreme the other way, which is like wild. And I wouldn't recommend it too much to too many people unless you're in that kind of place. I went alcohol free. I went drug free. I went celibate. I went masturbation free, I went dating free. And initially it was meant to be 100 days. I was like, okay, cool, this needs to happen because these are cycles. I'm just going around in these cycles. At 26, I've been through all of these cycles of just constant pain. And I took all that stuff away, and it actually led to a very difficult initial, probably 1 year, because all of that stuff that was deep inside of me started coming to the surface. The poor relationship I had with my father, the relationship that I had with my mother that I hadn't dealt with since I was 5 years old. Emotionally, I was like 5 years old because those moments, that's when everything started. And that stuck with me throughout. Taking everything away meant that I had to start to face each and every part of it. And one thing that we see in the industry is people want to face everything straight away. Like they know that they've got loads of issues. They know that they've got loads of things going on and they want to face everything straight away. Whereas actually what we need to do is peel back the layers. So all those layers that we've applied on top are layers of adapting to our current lifestyle. We want to peel them away. So I went through a period of 3 to 4 years of just peeling everything away, slowly going back to each section, revisiting, healing, reprogramming. I think if I never went through it in such an extreme way, I wouldn't be able to support the people the way that I do now. But because I went through it in such a dark and deep way, because I went through a period where I just felt pain and just saw darkness, it meant that I had to go through and relearn what healthy emotions were. I had to relearn what eating healthy was. And it wasn't always like that. I went through periods where I was in great shape because I played top level sport. But the big thing was really starting to learn yourself. And I call it self-parenting. Like we all have to go through a period of self-parenting because our parents go through loads of things. And for years, I judged my dad for not giving me what I needed. Whereas actually he gave me the best of everything he could give me with what he knew. And then the rest was my responsibility to go through a process of self-healing, take that responsibility back. So yeah, then we started to put together loads of skills. Obviously I went through loads and then I started to do deeper studying and deeper healing to get to where we are today.
Yeah, class. I think it'll be really refreshing for people to hear that because in this world, it's probably does your head in, right? Like going on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and you get these mindset pages, people that call themselves mindset coaches, and it's just like fucking sound bites of bullshit of just like B-roll with David Goggins' voice shouting over the top of it. And these people haven't actually been through anything. And I think the great thing with you is you openly share that you've been through a load of shit. You've been through hard times. You've been highs and lows, and you can empathize with wherever anyone is. And I think that's amazing, that you're willing to share your story, because as a coach, I know well myself, if you share your story, it's then much easier for people to actually follow along with you, right?
Yeah.
And believe in the process.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like that there's so many good coaches out there.
Yeah, of course.
Amazing coaches out there. And for whatever reason you're doing it, I think one of the biggest things is being as vulnerable as possible. Because every single day, even the top coaches, and yeah, there's a lot of coaches that only show the good side of what's going on in life or how to get motivated again and all of those things. However, every single day, every single human goes through ups and downs.
Yeah.
We don't just sit up there. We don't just sit up on that high. Yes, we want to sit up on that high as often as possible, but all of those ups and downs are the most important parts of what defines us as who we are. So every experience that we've been up until today, even if you and I went through exactly the same experiences, our viewpoint on that experience would be completely different. And people want to hear that. People want to feel that and resonate with it. And I think you're completely right. And like, even as an example with like all the work that we do, every single person, when they come to us, they've been through something completely different. They've got to this position where they're not happy with where they are because of the experiences that have led them till today. If we're not able to resonate with that, we're not able to go and sit with them and say, okay, cool, you know what? Even though can we swear?
Yeah.
Even though you fucked up in so many different ways that have got you to where you are right now, that's okay. Yeah, we completely accept you and hold you and celebrate you because you've come, all the skills and everything that you've arrived to today with, you needed those skills to get to today. You might not need them going forward,
for sure,
but you needed them till today. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting opposite each other to have those conversations. And I think one of the really big lessons in the world, and in the Western world especially, we're told to avoid pain or pretend pain doesn't exist or pretend sadness doesn't exist. But we're human beings, and human beings are meant to feel everything. And if we can feel everything, it means that when we feel really good, we can really value it highly. Whereas if we always focus on feeling like good or looking good, so other people are like, oh my God, that person's amazing, or they're always happy and they're always buzzing, it's just not real. And you can feel that through a camera, you can feel that face to face, you can feel that in your friendships. I'm sure you've had friendships over the years where you're like, you're not genuine.
Oh, of
like,
course.
There's parts of you that's not genuine.
100%. Yeah, I could smell it from a mile off. Smell it from a
it's
mile
the
off.
worst feeling. Because like, I know you're not being straight with me. I know you're not being straight with me, and I can feel it. And someone that tells me all the time, like, I do this, I do this, I do this. Great, amazing, really happy for you. But for me, it's a big red flag if someone can't say that I had a really bad day today.
Yeah.
If I've known them for 5 years and they've never had a bad day.
It's just a mask though, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's just a mask.
100%.
Right? Like you've been living in my house for what, like a week now?
Yeah.
Probably 3 of those days have been bad days, right?
Yeah,
I've just woke up and go, fucking hell, I'm really stressed today.
Yeah,
but like
exactly.
you get on with it, right?
Yeah.
And I think if you can be honest with the people around you, especially your loved ones, your life's going to be a hell of a lot easier rather than trying to wear this mask. And that is something that we see in entrepreneurs more than anyone, I think, do this, right? Is like this ego gets the better of them of, I need to be perfect. And actually they hold themselves back because of that, because they don't allow themselves to feel the feelings they need to feel, and therefore they can't actually fix them because they're kind of just being suppressed. And I think when I overcame that, because I definitely had that, if I look back maybe 2 or 3 years, I definitely had that, and I tried to portray that everything was fucking fantastic, and in reality it wasn't. It was never awful, but I didn't allow myself to have those bad days. I think when I actually allowed that to happen and went through the process of doing the mental work myself, and telling myself what I needed to hear in that time, that's where things really started to take off for me. And also from another layer of that, when I started to share that with clients and when I started to share that on social media and stuff, people just buy into it a hell of a lot more. Like I say, you know when someone's not being genuine. So if you're not being genuine yourself, people aren't going to buy into that.
Yeah. And it becomes a process of where they're not even buying in anymore because you're just a real human. Yep. You're just real. So ultimately, like, going through those ups and downs and like being really straight up with them, and this is what turned me into this, and like this is how I ended up here. Because we all go through good and bad experiences, and we get to choose what we take from them. And it's really interesting actually, because you're so right about entrepreneurs. We see it all of the time that they have to show a certain perception of who they are, and they have to act strong all of the time, or they have to always act like the provider. Yeah. And the word provider itself means that you're creating a certain situation, a certain environment. It doesn't always have to be the physical provider. You might be an emotional provider. Yeah, you might be someone that's going to provide a certain situation for someone to feel safe, for someone to shine in their best way. Even when it comes to like our partners, and like with Ali, like you create a situation and like you're creating like an environment for people to thrive in their best way. And she'll do the same for you. So like it's always a backwards and forwards in every single way. And I think one of the things that we've done here, like at the Optimised Entrepreneur, to like bring in mindset and bring in the physical side of things, and then also give people this idea that plan A might not always work. And that's great. Like, it's not even a bad thing. Like, the amount of people that every client falls off track.
Of course.
Every client. And there's so much, they apply so much pressure to themselves that they don't accept that plan B can just be the plan that gets you back to plan A, rather than thinking that, oh, I failed. I'm not good enough, or I can't do this, or that this is too hard, too difficult, blah, blah, blah. And we're going to just constantly keep going around in the same circle. Actually, plan A, B, and C can all be plan A, just different ways to take your own pain and say, okay, cool, I haven't got this, and that's okay. And now these are my new tools and sets of skills that bring us back to plan A. And I think we've started implementing that, and it's been great. Like, it's been really cool.
Definitely. I think the only time you can actually fail is by giving up, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you're just willing to put one foot in front of the other and find a way, then you're not going to fail. There's no chance of it. there's no opportunity because you're willing to push forwards. But I love what you're saying in regards to like being that provider in other ways, because I think that's something that, again, business owners can get caught up in all the time. And also just non-business owners like, right, I just have to put bread on the table, I have to make more money. But that's sometimes not actually what that person needs. And I know that very well with Ali as well. It's like, I thought I had to be the one that's just like working my ass off all the time, have to be bringing in money and doing all that stuff, when actually in certain times that's not what she needed. For me as a provider, it was actually just taking some more time in the evenings to spend time together, or going out for a date night or something like that, rather than being like hustle, you know. So I think that's probably a big learning of mine over the past 1 or 2 years, is like, actually you have to be a different person for at different times of your life. Yeah,
of course. And I think like we do it. So like one thing that I learned was, most people, when they create a business, they're creating a business for many different reasons, but then they get stuck in the business and then they end up just running the business. Whereas actually, when we focus on clients, we ask them to do the vision, and we say, okay, cool, you're creating your vision, but what is it that you're actually creating? You're creating a lifestyle, you're creating the time and the space to deal with your emotions. So when you have a stressful day, you just, I just need a day off. And that's the reason that we start a business, right? We just want a day off. I need that time and space to just be calm and relaxed. And then you create all the other areas. I want to have like children, but I want to grow a family in a really safe environment like Dubai. Yeah, so that's like another part of the vision, rather than saying that I want to be like in a slightly more stressful area, like when you were living like in the UK. And then I want to be able to provide for my family, physically and emotionally. But what's the most valuable thing? It's time. So I'm running a business so I can create time. Whereas what's the thing that we see with nearly every entrepreneur? They're running a business and they're losing time.
You have no time.
Yeah, they literally have zero
Escape
time.
the 9 to 5 or 5 to 9.
Yeah, exactly. And we're seeing it all of the time. And then just this conversation alone, saying to people, well, what's the reason? Why? Why are you actually doing this? And remembering, because actually you don't need, we'll still strive towards, but you don't need to be earning $1 million a month. Like if your vision is going to be, I need all of the time and I need to earn $10,000 a month or $20,000 a month, and I can live where I want to live. The family's provided, my extended family's provided for, I'm peaceful, I'm calm, I'm energetic, I can be creative. Because like if we don't have time in our minds, our creativity is awful, right? So it's taking people back to the vision and saying, okay, cool, well, this is what we're trying to create. And as you said, in business, the egos, like they just they just get stuck in, I need to be working. We had it just this week on our retreat. Yeah, people were saying that I need to be working. When I'm not working, I feel bad. That makes zero sense to why you started the business in the first place.
100%.
Like all this vision, like constantly revisiting that vision and finding tools to do that with. And it's the reason that we've done loads of things, and we're gonna be doing loads of things about helping people to revisit the vision, because your mental work, your emotional work, and your physical work, they're all as important as each other to get you to get to where you want to be.
Yeah, definitely, man. I think it's a really good question that people can ask themselves, the business owners specifically, is what do you actually want your business to bring you? And it's something we asked on a retreat, and there was just silence for a period of time, because people don't really know how to answer it, because you get so stuck in that hamster wheel of just doing and taking action and moving forwards that you have blurred vision. If you're completely right, if you take a step back, it's like, oh, okay, I probably actually want to create more freedom. Have I been doing that in the past year? No, I've been working literally every day. I'm burnt out. I want to buy X car. Have I got the money in the bank to do that? Yes. People don't actually know what they're working towards at that point, and they just keep working harder and harder and harder. And on one hand, it's admirable, right, that people have that drive and ambition. But on the other hand, it's like, right, we actually need to fucking revisit what you're working towards, because if you don't have that destination in mind, number one, you're not actually going to get there because you don't know what it is. And number two, you're going to be unhappy, overworked, burnt out after a period of time. Yeah. And going back to when they create the vision, make it fun. The whole reason, we're here is, yes, provide a service, live a life of purpose, creating sort of things. Making progress is super important towards your happiness as well. But ultimately, you want to feel good, you want to feel happy, and you want to enjoy as many moments as possible in life. You want to be present, and being present with your family, with your children, with your partner,
being present with your friends, your extended family, like being able to do things. Like you've created this vision. I want to travel as an example. So like traveling to me is one of the most important parts of my vision. So what have I done for the last 4.5 years? I've just traveled nonstop. People question it all the time. They're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm literally living my dream every single day. And then when you start to have that conversation with people, they're like, I get it. Yeah. I was like, cool, now go do it. Like literally go and do it. If you've got this vision, you've got a real choice. And like, so it means that if I'm having a bad day, I can have a bad day in the Philippines. You know? And that's how I want to live. Like I want to be able to say, okay, cool, well, let me go take a week out because I'm just really stressed at the moment. And same with you here in Dubai, like you've created this life and like you've even made a choice. You don't want to just live right in the middle of the city because that would be pretty much the same as living in any other city. So you've given yourself a bit of distance, really nice place, really nice area. And you can feel the calming presence when you're around you in your house. And that's super important because that's a super important part of your vision. I think one thing that I would really urge people when they go to look at their vision or look at their life or spend a bit of time going back through their goals, whether it's at New Year's, at the end of each quarter, is am I living in alignment with my vision? Yeah, because it's not about working towards your vision. It is, you'll always work towards it, especially with business, but are you living it right now? Because you don't know if you've got tomorrow. And like, it sounds really deep and morbid, but like you don't actually know. You know that you've got right now. So you can grow your business, continue making progress. On one side, recognize that I need to live in the present moment. And then on the other side, recognize that I can still keep growing my business. In my ideal life, I'm still growing my business, but I'm also doing all the things that bring me complete joy. And I think people need more joy at the moment. Like the world's wild at the moment. And taking more responsibility for their own joy, I think is key.
Yeah, I think I'll get caught up in that. I imagine everyone does, but I get caught up in like just doing shit. And I'm like, what's this actually bringing me at this time? Which is why I'm trying to play more golf at the moment and like actually enjoy.
Hey, your golf's going well. Your swing looks fantastic.
I won Top Golf yesterday.
So. Your swing looked fantastic.
Thank you, bro. Hey. Like just doing things that actually are fun. And trying, what I've been doing recently that works really well. Funnily enough, this has made me more productive than I've ever been.
100%.
I'd schedule in, start of the week, Sunday, get my calendar out. Right, what am I going to do for myself this week? Where am I going to have fun? Where's my personal time? Scheduling a date night at Valley, scheduling my golf. We're scheduled to go do something cool. Like we went to the water park last week, for example. And then work around that. We're not here, and this is coming from someone, as you know, that's really fucking driven about work and business and stuff. Like I'm one of the most driven people that I know. We're not here to just work. No. You're here to live. And like you say, we're here for a very short period of time, man. And we're here once. As we know it. Right.
Exactly.
not to get into any religious beliefs, but as we know it, we're here once and we've got to make it fun.
Of course we do. Yeah. And look, I was on the other end of the spectrum, right? And this is not what I wish on anyone, but I lost my mum really young, a really important figure in your life. And for years, I felt confused, lost, and stuck because you're not taught to do anything with that information, especially in the Western world. Like we're taught to like just deal with it, like get on with it, get over it. And I did for years. Then when I started dealing with it, I recognized that actually I was still dealing with 5-year-old Preet. And then you start to realize, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but everyone's parents are going to die. And you're going to lose people around you. And if you're not living your absolute dream each and every day, what are you doing? And it is a genuine question to ask yourself. It's like, we've got so much we can do. You can literally, even if you can't, let's say, I know the big argument that most people come up with is, well, my dream is going to cost me £10,000 a month. I'm only earning this. I'm like, okay, cool, fine. Make a list of all those things. Then make a list of all the emotions that are attached to those things. Are you telling me that only those things that are going to cost you that are going to bring those emotions? Because if you start living out the emotions, you'll automatically start becoming the person that you want to be because you'll be feeling like that person feels. Money will come. Money's like it's an energy thing anyway. So if you put it in the right place, it's going to come back to you, and it always will. There's never been a time when the energy's in the right place that money doesn't keep flowing. They're printing money every day. They're literally printing, like when you're here in Dubai, you can see it. They're printing money every day. And then, so you can make your money, but start living your dream today because we don't know. We don't know what's happening. We don't know how it's going to happen or anything like that. And like when you said you were moving out, I was like, yes, that's what he needs to do.
Yeah.
Like there's no question about it. That's what he needs to do. And like with Joe, like when he says that these are the kind of things that I want to feel. Yeah, we started working together a few months ago. These are the kind of things I want to feel. But I was like, okay, cool. So what are you feeling day to day? And he goes, all of these. I was like, okay, cool. So then you're just miles away from what you want to feel every day. And it was just small little tweaks. And now he's just feeling all the things that he wants to feel.
Sure.
So like, it's just wild. Like,
I think, I can't remember where I heard this, but I'm not going to take the quote as my own. If we clip this on Instagram, it's not mine before someone says I've nicked it. But like a smile on a 100-foot yacht and a smile in a Peugeot 308 is the same smile, right?
Yeah.
And crying in a Peugeot or crying on a 100-foot yacht, it's the same. You'll feel the same exact feeling. So the point that you just made of like, okay, if your dream life is having a yacht and traveling the world and whatever, what are the things that can actually bring us joy? I think that's a really, really, really good point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. And so I was born Sikh. So my family was Sikh. And one of the things that and there's many cultures do this as well, we live by, not even from a religious perspective, but from a life perspective, you live by seva. And seva basically means service. That's all it translates to. So you live a life of service. So all you're doing, whatever you do in your life, you're always providing some form of service, whether it's to people that are maybe not doing as well as you, or whether it's to the people that require your service and your support. You're always providing a service in the world. If we all focused on providing service, it would be a pretty cool place to live. There is a lot of service, but then there's also a lot of where people are putting their energy into other places. And when we come back to service, whether it's serving our family, serving our friends, serving the people closest to us, lifting them up as well, we start to live a life where we feel a lot more peaceful anyway, instead of striving for the things which we think will make us look a certain way. I don't know if you've read the book. There's a book by Robin Sharma, the monk that sold his Ferrari.
No, I need to though, because you keep on talking about it.
Yeah, amazing book. And there's loads of books like that.
Yeah.
But the story itself is fantastic. And it relates back to another story where Tony Robbins, he went and spoke to the 100, like he has access to these people, right? The 100 richest people in the world. And he spoke to, in general, he spoke to those. Then he went to India and he spoke to 100 very poor people in India. And they did a few different tests, questionnaires, however they measure it. And they measured levels of happiness. There was a significantly higher level of happiness in the poor people than there was in the 100 richest people in the world.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's the things that we're striving for. So he asked them all and he goes, none of them are happy. None of them are happy because they're constantly striving for more and more and more. You can always have more business and you can always have more money. Can you always have more peace? Can you always get your time back? You can't get those things back. And if you're constantly living in a stressful state, you're going to die early because you're literally stressing your body. Whereas if you live in a peaceful state, calm, and you're doing the things that make you feel epic, then like you're going to look towards the things that make you feel your best. That's not necessarily a bigger bank every single year. Now, we're not saying don't strive for your bigger bank because banks are amazing. Enjoy it. Yeah, and it's really interesting because people always ask me, so Preet, you're very spiritual, but you're also super bougie. Like you like the nice things. And I'm like, yeah, why can't I? Yeah, there's no such thing as labels.
rules.
No, there's no rules. I literally I call myself a spiritual gangster because like I still strive for all those things that a gangster wants. Yet I'm living, like I choose the spirituality life. And then surrounding yourself with like people that are striving as well from like your perspective, from a business, but you're driven, so driven. And then that allows me to be even more driven being surrounded by you. Look at Joe. The discipline is wild.
Yeah, he's the most disciplined person.
Wild.
Yeah.
So surround yourself with him and like suddenly we're all more disciplined, but I'm still spiritual and I'm still gangster. Yeah. And then you're still driven, yet we're all lifting each other up in various different ways and allowing ourselves to balance out. And I think that's like a really important thing that you mentioned it about planning your week, what makes you happy. So for me, I do one thing that makes me feel epic every day. And I plan it out in the same way. And like, it's amazing because why shouldn't I feel epic every day?
Definitely.
Why shouldn't we feel that good every single day? And we deserve to, And I think every single human being deserves to. And I think that's one of the things that we see with a lot of our clients is they believe they don't deserve to. Because they're like, well, I need to have 100K a month again.
Yeah.
And then I need to have 10 in a row. Then next year I need to have £1 million months. And then after that, I need to start striving towards a £10 million year, £15 million year.
Yeah.
There's nowhere in the world you can go where you won't be able to live once you're probably after about 20K a month. Most of the world, there's probably a few little places that are really exclusive, but
that road we were on the other day.
Yeah, that road we were on the other day.
You need £1 million month for that.
Yeah, £1 million month for that consistently for a while.
Yeah.
But again, what do those people do after they've slept? They leave that road and they'll go and do
stress out at work,
or they'll go and do everything else everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
Like strive for those things, strive for the amazing things, but the things that have the most value is like your happiness, like your actual happiness and time. Like your time can't come back. So all of the business owners that we work with, like we talk about prioritizing their nutrition, their health, because we're giving you more time. We want you to live forever.
Yeah,
Literally, we want you to live as long as possible, feeling your best, moving your best so you can go and do all your fun things. Like really recognizing what holds the most value can transform everything when you're creating your vision. I learned the hard way. So we teach people so they don't have to learn the hard way. We still have some people that learn the hard way.
For sure.
And it happens, like things will happen out of the blue. Like you'll lose someone and then that puts things in perspective. We just don't want people to have to go down that route to end up gaining perspective. Yeah. And I think that's like something that can make it like a huge difference to people.
Yeah, definitely, man. I think the most up-to-date research that I've read, and this is for just general people, if I remember correctly, is that you'll add 10 to 15 years of life by just looking after your health and fitness, right? Like 10 to 15 years. Now, for someone that is overly stressed, overworked, and is constantly in that sort of stressed, anxious state, that's going to be more than 10 to 15 years, right? That could be the difference between living to 60 or living to 90. Yeah. So, that's surely has more value than having a bit more cash in the bank. Like having and those years, those 20 or 30 years are way better because the quality of life's way better. You can actually put your socks on without getting out of breath, go up the stairs without getting out of breath. And so I think you're completely right. People just need it put into perspective sometimes. Like, what are you actually doing this for? Why? And what's the need? And it's not to say, like you say, it's not to say that you're not driven, but I'm interested to hear from you. Obviously, you've traveled 4.5 years, is that right?
Yeah.
4.5 years. So you've been to a lot of places. You've obviously been to places like Dubai, where we are now. You've been to Miami, all these places with extreme money, but then you've done the other side of it, right? Where is the place that you've been that has the happiest people that you've met?
None of the rich places. It's such an easy answer. Like none of the rich places because wealth becomes a drug. It's the same drug. It's that dopamine release, right? But those rich places, they do a lot more to, so like Miami was the same. Here is very similar. Here's slightly different though. There's a little bit more, like Miami had zero spirituality. Amazing place. Wild place, but zero spirituality. They're trying to build it in, but it's like fake spirituality. Yeah. So there's like, you're not actually living a spiritual life, or you're not trying to be more present, be more still, be more calm, have more awareness. Because that's like spirituality, the term is super broad. There's a giant umbrella. So if we just change the word spirituality to awareness. So you got awareness over when you're happy, when you're sad, when you're stressed, like those kind of things. And when you do feel that way, you can do something about it. So if you imagine in those places, they don't really spend time doing that. I didn't feel that. However, they have a lot more tools to make them like quick fixes. There's loads of quick fixes in those areas. So like I'm feeling really stressed, so let me go jump into one of those float tanks. Yeah. So I'm feeling really stressed. Let me go jump in a float tank. So they think that, okay, cool, I'm fixed. Everything's done.
30 minutes of more.
Yeah. Or like I'm feeling really like I'm like a lot of influencers. I'm living in like Miami. I'll fly over to Mexico. I'll do an ayahuasca ceremony, come back, I'm done.
Yeah.
Whereas you go to the countries that don't have as much money, they value so many different other things. Money's like, time is valued so much. So they'll always have dinner together as a family. I don't know if you watch that new series, 0 to 100 on Netflix. So it's about the blue zones where they've created like a new version of the blues, like a new series. They did a series 10 years ago and then they've done another series because they were trying to man-make a blue zone. So like by providing the right nutrition, providing the right training and that kind of stuff.
For anyone that doesn't know, what is a blue zone?
A blue zone is where the concentration of people that live to 100 is higher than anywhere else in the world. So I watched that and I went to Sardinia recently and it's the same there. So there's little things that they do. So a lot of them live on hillsides or mountains. So you get your natural exercise. They don't tend to go to the gyms in the blue zones. They eat Mediterranean desert diets, predominantly Mediterranean diets. But there's a few things. They have game time and play time every day. So something, even like the 100-year-old gran will be playing the same games as everyone else. It's just playtime. Really simple concept. And then on top of that, they will do things as a group, as a community, as a family. So those two things are massive. When you get to the richer countries, you see way less of that. Way less playtime, just time doing nothing, just chilling. And way less community because people's egos and businesses are all about driving, moving forward. It's bigger. How much more can I have? And that's the focus. We're driven there. Whereas community seems to make such a big difference to how happy people are. So as I've traveled around the world, I've noticed similar things. So like Sardinia was amazing like that. Mainland Italy wasn't. Yeah, so it is very particular types of people. When I went to Cape Town itself wasn't like that, but the rest of South Africa was. When I drove along the garden route and everywhere we stopped, we might have just been there for a few minutes and people wanted to have conversations. Community vibe was really important to people. The same thing when I was traveling like to mainland Greece. They've been in a recession for like 25 years.
Forever.
Yeah, they've literally been in a recession for years. Okay, cool. Money is like stressful. If you don't have that enough to survive, it's stressful. But they're all joyful. Like there's so much joy. Everyone sits down as a family and eats. And I've definitely noticed the big difference between the two. So as I travel around the world now, one of the big things that I do is I want to travel and learn about health. Nutrition's huge. How countries love. So not just intimately, but like as a family and as a group is very different in every country. And one thing I've noticed is there's happy people everywhere. Okay, so if there's happy people everywhere, that means no one's answers are right. That means that there's many answers that are right. There's obviously things that you can do for your body that are bad for your body. So like everywhere where there's cities, there's definitely a high level of stress. And then certain countries adopt that whole thing. I think the UK is one of those places. I think the UK adopts a higher stressful lifestyle.
Yeah, definitely.
And you feel completely different when you're in those calmer places. However, some of those calmer places, there's not as many people. So like it's like weighing things up, like what's going to work best for you. The areas that I found that like really strive in those is there's certain places like mainland Greece, the north of Africa, they definitely do community very, very well. And then places like South America and Asia, they seem to nail the whole community thing, as well as a little bit of the abundance mindset. So I want to make more money. I want to do this so we can all lift up.
Yep.
Like, so if you hear like the story of like footballers like Mane, Sadio Mane, when he earned lots of money, his aim was to go and grow his village. Like, so his whole village grew up and everyone lived a slightly better lifestyle and they still get to focus on all of those things. And I think that's again, that's service, isn't it? We're going back to that term, seva, and we're doing it with the OE. The service is we're providing people a healthier lifestyle so then they can live a richer lifestyle. And that's not just a fuller bank, but richer as a human being, richer in love, richer in community, richer in progress. So yeah, there's definitely been a big difference between the really rich areas and the areas that have less. They seem to prioritize their mental health, their physical health, and their time and energy a lot more. Whereas we tend to focus on, like, especially Western countries, when I say we focus on money and we focus on quick fixes. Yeah. But we don't focus on being peaceful and happy and joyful. Yeah. And I think there's a big change going on in the world at the moment. And I think things are heading in a direction. There is definitely a global movement. But as you know, like there's also a global movement of a lot more pain and anguish and stress and depression and poor mental health and poor physical health. We see it all the time. So I think that, yes, there's a movement going on, but I think there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, it's almost just like a plaster going on right in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Dude, before we wrap up,
Yeah.
what is the one biggest bit of advice that you could give to an entrepreneur or business owner that some of the stuff that we've been talking about is resonating? Maybe they're super stressed, maybe they're not living in their dream life. What's the biggest bit of advice that you could leave them with?
We've mentioned a lot about ego, but it's very difficult to just let go of your ego. For me, it would be revisit your vision and focus on the emotions that you want to feel rather than what needs to go inside the vision. Because what needs to go inside the vision will come anyway. Yeah. But you get to choose every single day what you're going to feel anyway. So if you start to focus on the things that you want to fill your days with all the emotions that you want to feel, you'll start to see your life changing massively. Don't just focus on the money and gaining new things and the growth of the business, but focus on like the healing and the growth of yourself, which will help all the people around you as well.
And in order to do that, come to the Optimised Entrepreneur.
Come to the Optimised Entrepreneur.
Obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
No,
I think any listener would have got a hell of a lot of value from that. I got value from it myself.
Appreciate it.
And as I said to Joe on the last episode, it won't be the last time we have you on. I'm sure this will be more of a regular thing.
Yeah, let's do it.
Sweet, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much.